everyone, welcome back to Paper Therapy with Amy. Here is a layout I'm making of when my oldest son went off to university for the first time last fall or late last summer. So I want to use this stamp set. This is the stamps, the Dream Maker stamp set. You can get it separate or you can get it in a kit. It's way better to get the whole kit because it's not that much more money. And this stamp set is a big hit, but of course it's not available anymore. It was just a special that was available for a sale that we had. I think it was Stamptacular sale. So I thought, is there a way to create a similar type stamp? So I'm going to try and do that with a foam block. So I'm just going to get these out of the way for a minute. So the way these foam blocks work is you warm them up and then you press your stamp into them and you get a reverse impression. So the words that I'm going to be stamping will be backwards, but for the purpose I'm using them, it doesn't really matter. Nobody is ever going to actually read them. Now this stamp does not cover the whole block, so I do have to warm sections up again to re-press it. I'm going to start with some Lagoon. This is why you want the new stamp pads, because these guys fall apart. And in order to get like an organic line, I'm going to use this to ink it up. Once I ink up the block, I will give it a bit of, well, first I'll stamp it off, and then I'll give it a bit of a practice stamp on some paper that I already messed up a few times on, but it is some White Daisy cardstock, just to see how it's going to turn out. Now, when you see me stamping it on the White Daisy, you will see how if I were to have rubbed the ink pad all over the foam block, then you get more of a square, and I wanted more of that organic shape. I drew some pencil lines just so I'd know exactly where my photos were going to end up. And then when I was loading up my block, my foam block, I tried to emulate the colors that are going on above. So I went from that red to purple to tealy blue to yellow. And then I end up cutting that orange bit off and sliding that paper in a little ways. This is the second sheet, or the second side that I'm doing. I started doing the right hand side of the layout, and so I was going a little slower, and this is also sped up. But I was going a little slower when I did that side, but now I've really got the hang of it, so I'm doing it quite quickly. Unfortunately, the recording of the other side, I was doing half of my work outside the frame of the camera. I was concentrating so hard that I didn't even realize that you couldn't see what I was doing. So I tried again with round 2, but I think this is enough to show you kind of how to do it. And if you have any questions, just ask them down below. It's a pretty easy method, and it's a great way to recreate that Parisian Notes stamp set that we can't get anymore, like a background scripty stamp set. Of course, it's difficult to add extra components to this unless you layered them on top, because when you're heating up this block, it only works so well to add more stamps to it. So basically, if I would heat it up again, the writing would come out, so then I wouldn't be able to add, say, a flower like the Parisian Notes has. But anyways, this is sort of the idea. The titles that I had with the Dream Maker collection didn't really work with my theme of what was going on here. So I dug through my titles, and since I had so much wood on my deck and I had that burlap that I made the banner, the farewell banner out of, I thought that this wood grain really went well. This is from Flower Market. So the die cuts that come with this Dream Maker collection are really nice, and they would work well with this layout, but I just didn't prefer any of those for my title. I really liked the word memories because, yeah, we were making a memory of saying goodbye to our son. I mean, he's back for the summer, but it's a big deal when your first one flies the coop, I feel like. So I had started playing with the idea of memories in full bloom because I had the picture of my awesome hanging basket there as well. And I brought in the in full bloom die cuts as well. And this little leaf foliage is from the In Full Bloom die cuts, but the rose is from Perfect Day. I want to say Perfect Day. Sorry, that's wrong. The rose is from Dreammaker. Perfect Day was one of the titles. So I just backed that rose with some of the cardstock that comes with Dreammaker, and it has kind of a watercolor look to it. And I'm actually kind of loving this raspberry red color. Somebody can correct me of what actual color it is in our cardstock, but I'm loving it, and it's looking quite good with my photos, so I'm just going with it. And a lot of these die cuts don't make the final cut. I end up adding some light bulbs. Because I have light bulbs in the top of my covered area on my deck there, I thought, oh, what about a string of light bulbs? I had done that on another layout and I really liked it. And so I end up adding those. And here I'm adding in some a journaling space. This is a stamp set that's no longer available. And, you know, shoot, I added that a little too far away. I wanted it to kind of be tucked under, and it was not quite tucked as far as I wanted it. So I had to fix that problem, and it was a happy accident because I ended up cutting out these little flowers and popping them on there and covering up where I wasn't quite far enough under the picture, and I'm quite happy with how that turned out. And here's the butterflies coming off and things switching sides. So it slowly evolved and came to what it ended up being in the end, but it just takes some time sometimes to decide what's too busy and what you like on a layout. So I added this little sprig as well behind each cluster there on each side. It just kind of makes another layer. That's the very background layer right on the paper, and I like how that looks. I also cut this little piece of foliage. You will see me doing that more often with die cuts, and so I could separate it and put it in two places. I don't like when I shove a die cut underneath the pictures and you don't see half of it, so I'll often cut that piece off and try and use it somewhere else because I think it's a shame that it's all hidden and you're not seeing it. Now, because the word memories is going to overlap the rose, I had to put pop-ups, the thin pop-ups on the far side of the word memories so that, like on the right-hand side, so that the left-hand side could be glued right down to the rose because that made it even all the way across. And here I'm drawing my swoopy lines for the light bulbs, and the light bulbs just kind of appeared because apparently I didn't hit record when I stamped those on. But I did just use a journaling pen to draw the lines in between them to make it look like they were on a string. So that little light bulb is from the In Full Bloom card making stamp set. This teeny tiny row of hearts that I'm stamping in red is from the Perfectly Imperfect stamp set. I'm just layering these hearts up here to make a third point of embellishments. This is going to be a very small point, but this way I kind of have that visual triangle going on. Although I do kind of have a linear layout here, so it's kind of going across the page from one side to the other, drawing your eye across the page. And I used this little circle to fill in my light bulbs with a little bit of yellow so they look lit up. This is also where I decided to add some splotches to my page. I'm still on the fence whether I'm glad I did that or not. The issue was that, this is why I don't use white as my background very often. The issue was that I had left some fingerprints on the page with my dirty fingers, and I didn't like those fingerprints. So I decided to camouflage them with my little splotch stamp. But when I look back at the pictures of before I did the splotch stamp, I am almost like, oh, I wished I hadn't done that. But what's done is done. It's going in the album. I have to let this stuff go. I do still love the page, and I showed it to my son's girlfriend who is there in the picture, and she loves the page. So you know what? Or the layout. We just have to let this stuff go and remember for next time that sometimes less is more. I added a few of the wood grain hearts, the ones from the center of the little banner, and a few more to different places on the page, mostly where the little ink blotches were. The Dreammaker stamp set contains a stamp that has a little bit of scripty writing. It's a smaller stamp. I used that one stamped off once with black ink. to add to different parts of the page as well. I hope today's video inspired you to get crafty yourself, and if you did enjoy it, I would love it if you would give me that thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet, so that you can be notified of new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!